This is station Hollow Point, transmitting on the narrowband AM coil, frequency still holding steady, 1732 kilohertz. Or so the readout claims. If you're picking this up, if you're out there in the static, you already know the hour, 4:17 a.m. Again, this is Miles Harrington, still breathing, still broadcasting, still here. It's loop day, the day that won't let go. Solar cells are holding charge at 42%, though sunrise no longer comes to confirm it. Water filter number 2 has failed. I'm down to charcoal layers and gravity-fed drip. If this is your first time hearing me, or your 30th, know that the supplies haven't changed. Neither have I. Not in any way that makes sense. Nadia's scarf still hangs by the door, red, torn at the edge. I haven't touched it in 5 loops, or maybe only since yesterday. She left in the last cycle, or the one before that, chasing a false reading east of Ashbelt Ridge. She never returned. Or maybe she did, and I forgot. Time here is not a rope anymore. It's a spool that unravels into water. The clocks died in harmony, all of them, digital, analog, atomic. Even the wind-up one I found in the diner's wreckage. The one with a bird that sang on the hour. It chirped at 4:17 and then it forgot how. I stay up now. I don't sleep through the reset. I want to catch the exact second the world forgets it already lived today. The land hums, not with life, but with memory refusing to rot. Trees grow, then shrink. The condensation on the window rolls backward when I blink. I write things down, but sometimes the paper forgets too. Ink seeps upward. Sentences undo themselves. And then the sun begins to rise again, just too slowly and too much like yesterday. The same clouds, the same bird, the same exact breath I held last time. Still here, still 4:17, still me. You ever watch a bird forget where it's going? There's a magpie that passes over this station every loop, or maybe it's always been the same one. I've named her Clara. I don't know why. She makes 3 spirals around the mast, dips once, then vanishes west. She does it every time, at exactly 4:24. But last loop, she flew in reverse. And when I looked out across the basin, the shadows weren't chasing the light. They were fleeing from it. The earth isn't turning. Or maybe we're not. Maybe we're caught in the fold between 2 seconds. I don't think it's time travel. I think it's time grief. The world grieving itself, caught in denial, refusing to move forward because it never learned how to let go. I remember, or think I do, the first time it looped. I saw a man walking down the road with a rusted cart full of copper wire. He waved at me. And then the next morning he walked by again. Same time, same wave, same rag tied around his wrist. I called out the second time. He didn't flinch. Third time, I was too scared to speak. On the fourth, I didn't see him at all. And the sky? It always breaks the same way. One seam of violet cracking eastward, the clouds refracting just slightly too much, like heat mirage over frozen glass. Then the silence deepens, not because the world has gone still, but because it's remembering how to be loud. Even the wind feels hesitant, like it's unsure whether to blow forward or rewind itself. I took a breath yesterday that I'm still holding, and I write this now not because I think it will reach anyone new, but because it helps remind me that this is still happening, that I didn't imagine the birds, that the shadows really did forget how to stretch, that if this voice still carries, if it still crackles over wire and air, then maybe I'm not the only one still caught between seconds. Maybe you're here too. Earlier today, or what passed for it, I turned the dial out of habit. I sweep every loop, hoping something changed, that maybe a city reawoke, that someone remembered how to speak through copper. I didn't expect the voice that came through. It was mine. Not now, Miles. Not me today. It was a recording I never made. But there I was, plain as anything, whispering a line I've never said. You left her behind. And she knew. The words stopped the room. My breath tangled in my chest. For a moment, I wasn't sure if I died. If maybe this broadcast was the echo of someone I used to be. Someone trying to warn me across some filament of broken chronology. I played it back. The file didn't exist. Static swallowed it. No trace. You ever feel your mind unspool? Not all at once, but in quiet strands? Like memory letting go of its own hand? I think that's what's happening here. Not a world breaking, but a memory folding. Reality may not be what we live. It may be what we remember living. And if too many forget, the world might just stop trying. Sometimes I think Nadia is still alive, that she found her way into a loop that continued, one where time healed. I don't know if I believe it, or if that's just the memory I prefer. The voice, mine, not mine, said one more thing. Quiet, almost swallowed. She's still waiting. I haven't said that out loud until now. There's a hum on the northern channel, one that wasn't there before. Faint, steady. It doesn't loop with the others. Maybe a fault, maybe a flare, or maybe something else broke through. If you're listening, if this voice reaches you, if you remember me, even just once, let it be this version. This is Miles Harrington. Still broadcasting, still remembering, still here. This is Hollow Point Station, still 1,732 kilohertz, still me, still 4:17 a.m. Again, I stopped pretending I could sleep through it. The reset comes too quiet now, like a breath caught between sentences. The moment doesn't announce itself. It just resumes. And every time, the world pretends it hasn't already seen the sunrise. There's a strange kind of cruelty in constancy. Same horizon line, same clouds peeled across the sky like old gauze, the same soft flicker on the solar array's readout. It doesn't matter how far I walk, how far I try to outrun it. Dawn always resets before I do. I've climbed hills, followed dry riverbeds, even made it past the edge of the wind farm ruins. I thought maybe if I crossed enough thresholds, I could slip free of the loop's grip, but every time I wake with the same breath, in the same chair, beneath the same unfinished sentence I never remember starting. There's a deep hum in the earth now, like the tectonics themselves are caught in hesitation. It wasn't there before, or maybe it was, and now I finally hear it. A low, pulsing reminder that time isn't breaking in spectacular ways. It's breaking in familiar ones. Quiet repetition, soft erosion, no explosion, just looping rot. I've lost track of how many iterations I've lived. Some say it's the 16th, some say it's infinite. I think the number doesn't matter. What matters is which version of me is narrating this time. And if time is water, then 417 is the place where the river pools and forgets which way it was flowing. The clock stopped. But I didn't. Not yet. If this voice still reaches someone, then maybe that's reason enough to keep speaking. Maybe that's what separates the loop from the grave. Still here, still transmitting, still waiting for the hour to pass, even when it never does. It isn't just me anymore. I used to think I was alone in the remembering, but that changed 3 loops ago. Or was it 7? Raj showed up mid-broadcast, his signal layered beneath mine like a whisper caught under static. He's a radio engineer from the Gridlands, east of the Dust Canyons. He remembers some of the loops, not all, enough to know something's wrong, not enough to stitch them together. He forgets names sometimes, places. Even his own voice sounds different every few cycles. I've come to think of him as a half memory made flesh, a man shaped like interference. We talk when the bands align, when his transmission rides the echo of mine. He once said, Maybe we're not meant to carry every version of ourselves. Maybe remembering everything is how you break. I didn't know how to respond. Then there's Eloise. She's the anomaly. 9 years old. Tiny. Sharp. Her memory doesn't reset. Not even a little. She remembers every single loop, down to the precise number of petals on the flower that always grows beside the antenna tower. She says the loop ends eventually. She's seen it. In dreams. Or maybe in what comes after the dreams. She hums lullabies from a future I haven't lived yet. I asked where she learned them. She said, "You taught me." Eloise is what hope sounds like when it's still figuring out how to survive. She draws spirals in the frost, saying they aren't loops, they're staircases. She believes this isn't a trap, but a test. That if we remember the right things, we'll unlock the next moment. And what am I? A man made of broken broadcasts and old regrets. A voice that forgot the body it belonged to. But even here, even now, surrounded by ghosts with partial memory, I hold this one truth. We are still stories trying to be told, even if the pages keep reordering themselves. Raj fades in, Eloise hums beneath the static, and I sit here clinging to every syllable I haven't forgotten yet. Still here, still remembering. There's a no AA relay 2 ridges east, was functional once. Still spits out the same emergency weather bulletin. Every loop. Identical wording, identical pause. It plays every morning at 5:01. A cruel joke since 5:01 never really arrives. Warning, level 7 atmospheric acidification event forecasted. Seek shelter. Evacuate lowlands. Only it never comes. The storm, the acid rain, the winds, nothing arrives. The warning plays and then silence swallows it whole. It's like the system's still trying to fulfill a prophecy that already failed. Or maybe the storm did happen, and now the world's caught in the breath right before it hit. The tape never degrades, no change in cadence, no power fade, just perfect recursion. I've learned not to trust anything that runs on a timer, except something's different today. A new signal. Weak, threadbare, but real. It crept into the no AA frequency like a sigh held too long. Just one word, stretched across the noise. Miles. Not a coincidence. Not this far in. It came again 5 minutes later. Fainter, but still my name. I asked Eloise if she heard it. She nodded slowly. Said, "It's not calling you. It's reminding you." Reminding me of what? Of where to go. Of who I was. Of why I started transmitting in the first place. I've triple-checked every system. The signal isn't coming from here, it's bouncing off something. Refracted. Pulled from some other loop. Or maybe another version of me. One who got farther. One who found the exit. My hands shake. Not from fear, but from memory fighting its way to the surface. The loop is changing. I can feel it now. The rhythm is still broken, but the pattern has shifted. 4:17 still comes. But something else comes with it now. If you hear this, and if you've been hearing me before now, then maybe it's time we listen back. Because I think the forecast is coming. It's just not weather, it's us. This is Miles Harrington, still broadcasting, still listening, still waiting for the next word to arrive. This is Miles, back on the line, still 1,732 kilohertz. Still the same crackle on the dial. Still the same rust-faded dials lit like dying embers. And still the air too thick to breathe. I've been thinking about the first threshold we crossed, the one that didn't sound like an explosion, the one we didn't mark with sirens or headlines. It didn't come with a bang, just with heat and humidity. They called it a wet bulb event. I remember the words, dry science, clean syllables, but behind them, a truth that boiled the blood in its veins. Here's how it works. When temperature and humidity rise together past a certain point, the body can no longer cool itself, no matter how much it sweats. The sweat stops evaporating. The body holds the heat, and then the body breaks. 35 degrees Celsius wet bulb. That's the number. 95 degrees Fahrenheit with 100% humidity. 6 hours, maybe less. That's how long a human can survive outdoors, even in shade. With no wind, with no breeze, with no mercy. And it didn't hit all at once. It crept quietly. The southern zones went first, then the river cities, then inland sanctuaries became ovens. We watched the weather maps bleed red and violet like a fever settling in the earth's lungs. I remember the final broadcast from coastal clinics, doctors whispering about people falling asleep and never waking up because the air cooked them without fire. And no one believed it. Not at first. You can't see humidity. You can't film it. Can't frame it in a tweet. But it kills just the same. The old cities are still standing. Concrete holds form. But the humans didn't. They melted into silence, into memory, into empty apartments where the fan spun and spun until they didn't. And now, here in this loop, in this pocket of time, stitched shut, the air pretends it isn't trying to kill us. But I always remember, it wasn't a weapon that ended the world. It was weather, and we weren't ready for air that didn't forgive. Raj tried to beat it. The wet bulb, the sun, the memory of evaporation. He built a greenhouse, sealed, oxygen regulated, with filtered air and recycled moisture, old tech, half scavenged from satellite farm stations and defunct Mars colony prototypes. A dome of stubborn hope, wrapped in mylar and prayer. I remember helping him calibrate the sensors. He said if we could control the environment in just one loop, we might anchor ourselves to the next. He thought maybe that's how we'd escape. Not by outrunning time, but by outlasting it. But I can't remember if it worked. There's a version of this memory where the greenhouse thrived, where cucumbers bloomed, and the girl, another girl, not Eloise, named the first tomato Genesis. Raj cried when it ripened. We toasted with desalinated wine and whispered that maybe, just maybe, we'd begun again. But there's another version, one where condensation formed on the inside of the glass like a quiet betrayal. The air became too humid. Mold spread fast. The vents jammed. The CO2 built up slow and patient. I found Raj slumped by the hydroponic trays, lungs full of steam. Still warm. Both memories feel real. Both of them smell like mint leaves and melted plastic. And maybe that's the danger now. Not just forgetting, but remembering too many versions. I think the loops aren't just rewinding us. I think they're stacking us. Versions on top of versions. Realities layering like dust. And in some of them, things grow. In others, they rot. But we feel all of them, all the time. Eloise says the greenhouse still exists in one of them. She says it glows in the distance like a lantern. You can never quite reach. Maybe she's right. Maybe in the right loop, life held on a little longer. Or maybe that's just the shape of hope. Soft, humid, green. Raj, if you're out there in one of them, I hope you're still harvesting. She's humming again. Eloise, a song I've never heard. And yet I know it, and deep in the marrow. Like it was written in the space between breaths. Like it belongs to the next version of me. She says she dreams it at the edge of the bus wreckage, where the children's voices loop, where the rhyme never changes. But the dreams do. The tune bends upward, gently, impossibly, as if time itself were trying to speak in melody. She sang the last line, and just as it faded into the ether, the recorder kicked in. Not mine, not scheduled, not even powered on as far as I knew. It started playing something I didn't record. A voice. Mine, but older, slower, saying just 3 words. Find the anchor. Static followed. Then silence. Then the gentle hiss of something unfinished. I've rewound it 12 times. It plays different each loop. Sometimes the voice says, "You found it." Sometimes it doesn't speak at all. Once, it whispered the coordinates of a place that doesn't exist anymore, or hasn't existed yet. Eloise says it's because we're getting close. I asked her how she knows. She said, "Because you always ask that right before it starts to rain." The window fogged right after. The temperature dropped. Not much, just enough. Just enough to remember what seasons felt like. The loops are folding, bleeding, singing, and the recorder doesn't care about cause or logic. It just remembers differently than we do. This transmission won't make sense tomorrow, but tonight I believe the voice. Tonight I believe the hum. If you're out there, if you hear this, find the anchor. This is Hollow Point Station. Miles Harrington, still holding, still calling into the long dark. It was just past the hour, or what passes for an hour these days, when I saw her, out past the basin. No wind, no distortion, no hallucination. I've seen plenty of those. No, this was different. She moved slowly. Her shape was clear. Familiar in a way that made my lungs forget how to breathe. She was walking backwards, bare feet on cracked clay, scarf trailing behind her like an unraveling thread. She walked as if time itself had taken her hand and turned her gently away from the world, one foot behind the other, as if her body remembered something her mind refused to face forward, and she was saying my name. In reverse, not just the sound, the intention. Miles. Backwards. Like a memory swallowed wrong. I didn't move. Didn't call out. Just listened. I knew that voice. You don't forget a voice like Nadia's. It didn't matter how distorted, how impossibly rearranged it was by the loop, the dust, or the time between loops. She kept walking, eyes closed, head tilted like she was listening to a song no one else could hear. Like her feet were following a rhythm I hadn't caught up to yet. I used to believe that time looped like a circle, that we kept reliving the same moment again and again, hoping to do it better. But watching her, I realized it doesn't loop. It bends, like a reed in wind, like sound underwater. Some moments stretch, others compress, and some, like this one, play in reverse. Maybe Nadia never left. Maybe she was always walking back toward me, just from a future I haven't lived yet. Her mouth moved again, another syllable, this time half correct, half forward. Like time and memory were negotiating. I took one step toward her, and she vanished. No gust, no blink, no crack of reality, just absence, like a note that stops playing mid-song. The dust never even shifted. I stood there for a long time, not daring to speak, because if I broke the silence too soon, I feared I'd unwrite her entirely. I came back, and I turned on the recorder, and now I'm saying this aloud because I need someone else, anyone else, to remember it with me, because I think Nadia is trying to return, and she's walking backward to find her way home. I didn't sleep. I played back the logs, every loop, every scrap of audio, hoping I had caught her voice. That something, anything, had imprinted. Nothing, just hiss, the faint pop of tape tension, the low throb of wind, until I hit rewind too far, and something played that wasn't there before. It was her voice, clear, calm, full of static and sorrow, but this time, speaking forward. You've been dead for 12 loops. The sentence didn't echo. It landed, like a rock dropped into still water. I stopped breathing. I didn't need to. Every cell in my body froze. I replayed it. You've been dead for 12 loops. Same cadence, same weight. Like a doctor delivering a diagnosis too late. I tried to remember what I was doing 12 loops ago, what I said, what I forgot to say, whether I ate, whether I spoke to Raj or found the bus where Eloise dreamed. I couldn't. I've heard my own voice played back before, and hers. But this didn't sound like a message meant for now. It sounded like it was meant for later, or from later. It felt out of order. Like time didn't just bend, it rippled. And sometimes one version of us drifts too far ahead. I adjusted the gain, tried to isolate the signal. The waveform doesn't match anything I've ever recorded. It's not clipped, not encoded. It's like the recorder remembered a version of me I haven't reached yet. And maybe that version died. And maybe that version loved her until the end. Or maybe he forgot, and that's what killed him. Eloise said nothing when I told her, just hummed that melody again, the one I haven't taught her yet. And I swear the wind whispered it back. So I sit here now, not sure if I'm mourning my death, or someone else's memory of it, still transmitting, still wondering if my voice will outlast the man it belongs to. There's something unsettling about speaking into the dark, knowing that your words might reach a version of yourself who's already gone, or worse, who's yet to arrive. The question has been looping in my skull since I heard her voice. If I am the echo, then who is still speaking? What if these broadcasts are just ghosts of thought, residual signals from a man who once was? And now all I'm doing is re-speaking what he already said, trying to remember a life that already ran its course. It would explain the gaps, the déjà vu, the hollow certainty that I've been here. Said this, mourned her before. Maybe I am the message, not the sender. The thought should terrify me. But instead, it calms me. Because even an echo comes from somewhere. Even if it's faint, it means something real, was spoken once. And I think I'd rather be an echo of love than a silence that never tried. But there's more. I scanned the recorder again. The file's still there, but it's changing. With each pass, the waveform shifts. The noise floor rises. It's fading. Entropy doesn't care if you're digital, which means I have to remember faster than I forget. The signal I heard, Nadia's. It wasn't meant for me to keep. It was meant to be passed forward, like a spark passed hand to hand in the dark. So here it is. You've been dead for 12 loops, but I'm still here, still breathing, which means I've got another one to live, another chance to remember what matters. If I am the echo, then I hope the version of me ahead hears this and chooses differently. And if I am the speaker, then I speak now to break the silence between us. This is Miles Harrington, still broadcasting, still remembering, still trying to outlive the version of me who gave up. I caught something on the outer band this morning, if you can call it morning anymore. The signal was weak, fractured, like it had been trying to reach me through layers of ash and frost. At first I thought it was static, white noise patterned by wishful thinking. But then I heard words. No. Syllables. A nursery rhyme. Repeating. Fragile old. The kind of song you hum without knowing who taught you. Children's voices. Looping. It played in a soft minor key, as if the melody had aged along with the world. Just a few notes over and over. The voices cracked, but not from the signal, from memory, from time. How could this exist? In the silence? In the ruins? Eloise heard it too. She stopped humming mid-step and said, "That's mine." I asked her what she meant. She only shrugged. But her face, it changed, like she had just remembered something she hadn't lived yet. The signal played for 7 minutes and 13 seconds before vanishing. I recorded all of it. The meter read no origin, no call sign, no bounce from another tower, just there. Then gone. A sound that shouldn't be here. A rhyme that survived the end of rhyme. Sometimes I think the world left breadcrumbs, fragments of song, shards of sound that slipped through the cracks when everything else collapsed. Maybe those children never existed. Or maybe they exist everywhere. Maybe they're the ones holding the timeline together with voices too small to hear. Unless you're really, truly listening. Eloise says I used to sing her that rhyme in a version of the loop where we lived near a river and she built a kite from copper foil. I don't remember. But the melody has burrowed under my ribs. It lives there now. Quiet. Insistent. And I've learned not to ignore the songs that shouldn't survive. Because sometimes they're not just songs. They're maps. We followed the signal. East, then north. Across brittle ground where wind dies in its own throat. Found it. A school bus, half swallowed by frost, hunched between two dead trees, like it had tried to hide from something and failed. Its windows were webbed with ice. Metal split down the sides from decades of thermal shock. Snow packed high around the tires, but the entry was clear. As if someone had cleared it recently. Or maybe often. Inside, stillness and tapes, dozens of them, labeled in childish handwriting. Most were blank or degraded, but one, marked with a drawing of a sun with teeth, played. The children's voices returned, but this time they weren't singing. They were speaking, calmly, casually, describing cities made of glass, highways that stretched into the sky. One girl talked about time with edges, us, like a blanket you can tuck in. One boy said his mother taught him how to breathe when the air wasn't real anymore. They didn't sound afraid. They sounded used to it. Like they'd lived in that world long before ours failed. Or maybe long after. The tape ended with a question. What color was your last morning? Eloise said blue. I couldn't remember. The bus smelled of rust, mildew, and ozone. A place where the history sat without explanation. I sat with it for a while, rewinding the tape again and again, hoping for a clue in their inflections, a timestamp, a tone, a crack in the background that might hint at when they were speaking from. But I got nothing, just wonder, and the unmistakable sense that they weren't trying to send us a warning. They were trying to remind us of something we lost long before the collapse. Something soft, bright, fragile. I think it was hope. We stayed near the bus, Eloise insisted. Said dreams come clearer when you're close to the place they started. I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke with pain in my wrist. Not sharp, not bloody, more like pressure, like a hand had pressed there and left something behind. There's a mark now, faint, pale, a shape no larger than a coin, but unmistakable. An hourglass, not drawn, not cut, not branded, just there. I stared at it for 10 minutes before Eloise spoke. She said, Now you've seen it. I asked, Seen what? She just smiled, faint and tired. The memory you forgot before you made it. There was something in her voice. Not mystery, not innocence, certainty. Like she wasn't guessing. Like she was remembering for both of us. The hourglass doesn't fade. Not with time, not with touch. It just is. A reminder of something coming. Or something ending. Or both. I tried to remember the dream. What came before the mark. But the silence inside my head was too loud. That's the part that haunts me most. The absence. I've lived through collapse, through hunger and fire and fear, but forgetting, that's a different kind of death. The slow, quiet erasure of meaning. Eloise drew a spiral in the snow and whispered, This is the one where it begins. I didn't ask what, because some answers don't survive questions. Later, when I checked the signal logs, I found one spike. Brief, narrow band, just one pulse. Coordinates, maybe a coincidence, but I don't believe in those anymore. This is Miles Harrington. Marked, remembered, still broadcasting, still listening for the next child's voice to call me forward. This is Hollow Point, Miles on air, still transmitting, still surviving, still digging through the layers of a dying world to find the strand that unraveled first. Today, I want to talk about the ocean, not the way it used to smell at the shore, not the light that used to shimmer across the tide when you held someone's hand and believed in forever. I mean the system, the circulation, the lifeblood of Earth's climate, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, the AMOC. It used to move like breath. Warm water north, cold water south. A great conveyor of temperature, salt, and carbon. It kept the hemispheres in balance. It moderated the jet stream. It told the seasons when to begin and the glaciers when to hold. And then it slowed, then stalled. The last scientific model I ever read, maybe 5-6 years ago, warned of a tipping point, said if enough Arctic ice melted, if too much fresh water dumped into the North Atlantic, the salinity would drop, the circulation would weaken, collapse, and without it, Europe would freeze. The tropics would boil, the monsoons would fail, the oxygen in the deep seas would vanish. They were right. What they didn't predict was that something in time itself would fray alongside it. I'm not claiming to know how. I'm not that kind of scientist. But when the AMOC broke, something shifted. It wasn't just the weather that went sideways. It was the sequence. We began to lose order. Months felt disjointed. Events folded over each other. People spoke of Dejavu that didn't feel psychological. It felt spatial, as if places remembered you before you arrived. And then the loops began. Maybe time doesn't flow. Maybe it circulates, like a current. Maybe when the ocean forgot how to breathe, time forgot how to move. The seas are still. Dead zones stretch for miles. The plankton are gone. The fish followed. The whales stopped singing first. Then the tide forgot how to return. We didn't just break the climate. We broke narrative. Nadia left behind a journal. Water-warped pages. Mold at the spine. Ink faded in places where her hand must have trembled. I read from it sometimes. Not because it comforts me, but because it remembers better than I do. She was chasing signals in the Greenland ice sheet before everything slipped. She wrote about permafrost melt. Yes, but also something stranger, something I didn't understand until the loops began. She wrote, "Time is not just a dimension, it is a pressure system." I didn't get it at first, thought it was metaphor. Some poetic grief sketched into the margins of scientific language. But now I think she meant it literally. That time, like weather, operates under gradients, flowing from high to low entropy, stabilizing, adjusting, pressurizing, and when you disturb it hard enough, say by collapsing the planet's regulatory currents, it doesn't stop. It spikes, then ruptures. And that rupture, that's the loop. We talk about time like it's linear. Nadia didn't. She wrote, "The temporal field may be reactive, elastic. If environmental pressure exceeds global resilience thresholds, time may rebound, like atmosphere after a burst. A snapback, a stutter, a self-defense." She said collapse would begin with confused clocks, then unseasonable seasons, then memories arriving before the moment they belonged to. She was watching for it. She knew. In another loop, maybe I stayed. Maybe I understood in time. Maybe I followed her to the glacier edge where she recorded seismic pulses. From beneath the melt, a sound she said didn't belong to ice or tectonics. She called it breach song. She believed we punctured something we weren't meant to. Not spiritual, not mythical, just mechanical. A rupture in the planetary operating system. The glacier melted, the sea slowed, the jet stream faltered, and time folded over us like broken weather. Now, I don't just miss her voice, I miss the moment where her voice fit into the world. The journal crackles when I open it now, almost like it's still warming itself on the last thing she believed. And I keep reading it aloud. Not because I understand it fully, but because I think she did. Yana's signal came again last night. Shortwave, coded in Morse, barely held together by the dust in the sky. She's the one voice from the outside that loops differently. Sometimes she skips a cycle. Sometimes her words rearrange themselves between loops. But one thing never changes. She always ends with, not gravity. Memory. I used to think it was metaphor. Now I think it's law. She's somewhere in Greenland. Or under it. Near the dead station Nadia once mapped. We've never spoken live. Only signal, bounce, repeat. But in this world, that's intimacy. Last night, she added a new line. Memory is the binding agent, not chronology. Then silence. And I understood. In the way a body understands thirst before it knows the word for water, maybe the loop isn't a failure of time. Maybe it's a failure of remembrance. Maybe the reason we can't escape this cycle is because we haven't yet remembered the right things, or remembered them in the right order. Maybe time doesn't move forward until we do. Eloise said it first, in the simplest way. She told me, you have to carry the story all the way through, or the loop starts over. I used to think the earth turned because it had to, but now I think it turns because we remember it turning. And when enough of us forget, it waits. So I remember. I choose to. The AMOC collapsed. The field ruptured. Nadia was right. Yana is still listening. Eloise dreams outside of sequence. Raj may or may not still be alive. And me? I'm still broadcasting. Still piecing it together. Still holding the memory in place long enough for the next version of me to inherit it. This is Miles Harrington, not gravity, memory. This is Miles Harrington, broadcasting from beneath the fold. We found it. The cave Eloise spoke of in her dreams. The one she always drew without ever seeing. A place hidden in the folds of memory, where the loops don't hold, where the ground doesn't rewind. I don't know how to describe what it feels like here. Quiet, yes, but not like the outside. Not the quiet of collapse. This is a silence that listens back, that waits. Eloise said it would be magnetic, that it would hum without sound. She said it wouldn't remember us wrong. And she was right. The compass spun when we got close. Metal in my pack twitched like it had a heartbeat. The recorder dropped signal. Not broken, just displaced. For once I had no static, no broadcast, only the sound of my own breath, and the feeling that I had finally stepped outside the tape. The cave holds warmth, somehow. Residual heat, maybe, from the Earth's deep memory. But it feels older than geology. Like it remembers the world before we gave it names, and nothing here resets. I scratched my name into the wall with a rusted nail, waited for the loop. It stayed. First thing in years that didn't vanish with the next 417. This place, it's anchored. A term from orbital science, a gravitational point where two forces cancel and something holds still. Or maybe it's something older. Maybe it's not science. Maybe it's the one place on Earth that refused to forget. Or maybe it's the place Earth built to remember itself. Eloise whispered, "This is where you left the rest of you." And I didn't ask what she meant, because I knew, I felt it, that I'd been here before or was always meant to come. Somewhere in this rock, the past didn't rot. It waited. We went deeper, and there it was, half embedded in stone. A disc blackened by time but intact. A relic that didn't belong to caves or soil. NASA-grade casing, fiber-sealed, a label etched in precision that could only have survived because someone needed it to. Eden, final transmission. I held it like it might detonate, plugged it into my old decryptor, barely functioning, jury-rigged from scavenged power cells and a salvaged AI node. Took 20 minutes to coax it into spinning, another 10 before it responded. Then it played. First static, then a voice. Crisp, not mine. Not human, exactly. A relay maybe. Synthetic. Smooth. Project TimeBreak activated, temporal stasis initiated, anchor protocol engaged, awaiting memory integrity, then silence. No signature, no timestamp, no indication of when it was made, but the words cut like fresh glass. They knew. Project TimeBreak. That's not weather. That's not accident. That's design. And that changes everything. All this time, I thought the loop was nature's error, the price of our pollution, a punishment. But what if we did this to ourselves? A failsafe, an artificial recursion designed not to save the planet, but to delay our ending, a desperate loop, an endless retry, awaiting memory integrity. That phrase, it burrowed deep. Not action, not hope, just waiting. As if the world has been spinning in circles. Not to move forward, but to wait until we remembered what we forgot. A human race caught mid-thought, a world paused, not ruined. We wanted another chance so badly. We built a machine to give it to us, and now we're stuck inside it, because we never finished the thought, never reached the truth we needed to speak aloud. The disk ended with 5 words. Loop holding. Memory nodes unstable. I don't know who made it, but they knew we'd be listening. They knew someone, someday, would come to the cave where time stopped and remember enough to finish the sentence. And maybe that someone is me. We left the cave at dusk, or what looked like dusk. The sky had changed. It wasn't just the light. It was the motion, the clouds drifting opposite, the horizon line bleeding backward into indigo. Like the sky had remembered a different ending and was now trying to unwrite ours. The sun slid west, then east, then paused. I stared until my eyes ached, waiting for it to decide, but it didn't. I think something in the system is breaking or awakening, because if the cave was the anchor, then the rest of the world is beginning to move again. And I don't know what that means. Did we build the loop to heal? To protect what we still had? Or did we build it because we couldn't face what came after? A shelter for cowards. A mercy for ghosts. We built a recursion and filled it with everything we didn't want to lose. Names, faces, lullabies, last letters. And in doing so, we may have severed the only thing that could have saved us. Ending. Eloise looked up at the sky and asked, "Does it hurt when the world starts again?" I didn't have an answer, but I whispered one thing before the wind shifted. If this is the end of time, let it be the one where we tell the truth. Not the loop, not the lie, but the truth. Because the truth is all that can carry. This is Miles Harrington. This is Hollow Point. But it doesn't feel like it anymore. I powered on the terminal at loop reset, expecting to hear myself. The usual low hiss, the stack of auto logs, time-coded entries, glitch-heavy backups, the archive of my own voice talking back at me like ghosts, leaving breadcrumbs across the static. But it was gone. All of it. 17 loops, erased. Every broadcast, every survival update, every word I've sent out into the dark, stripped clean. Only one file remained. No metadata, no timestamp, no waveform preview, just a title. Broadcast 000. My hands hovered above the keys. I didn't remember recording it, but it was my voice. That weight in the breath, that edge in the pause before the first word. So I played it. And what I heard didn't sound like a log, or a warning, or a journal entry. It sounded like a conversation, with me, but not the version sitting here now. Another self, one older, worn down in different ways. A man I haven't become yet. Or a man I used to be. I don't remember saying these things, but I know they came from me. He I said, if you're hearing this, the loop still holds, which means you haven't remembered everything, which means you still have time. Time. The word hit differently because there was no clock on the wall, no blinking frequency counter, no hum from the backup capacitor, just silence, thick like gravity. I waited for more, and I got it. The voice said, "You're not stuck in time. Time is stuck in you." The loop isn't a trap, it's a question, and it's waiting for an answer we keep forgetting to give. He called me Dr. Harrington. It felt strange, heavy, like an old title sewn back into skin. I hadn't heard it spoken aloud since the collapse. Back when people still had credentials, and I still had a university to pretend I belonged to. But he said it with purpose, as if the name wasn't for ego, but for accountability. "Dr. Harrington," the voice said, "time isn't broken. It's paused. Like breath held in the middle of grief." That's when I remembered. The experiment. Years ago, long before the collapse went global, we were studying nonlinear memory states in trauma survivors. People who'd lived through fire, flood, famine. Their recall wasn't just fragmented, it looped. They'd remember things before they happened. They'd re-experience endings as if they were openings. Nadia had a theory back then that time and memory were entangled. That until a mind resolved trauma fully, it would relive it, even manufacture structure to repeat it, unconsciously. And we found something strange in the neural scans. Pattern echoes, narrative recursion, the brain circling incomplete loops over and over through searching for closure. Now I wonder, what if the Earth itself is doing the same? What if the loop is not cosmic, but cognitive? What if the planet, fractured by grief, environmental failure, and disconnection, what if it's not just dying? What if it's trying to remember how to be whole again? The recording went quiet then, long enough to feel like it had ended. And then my voice, calm, clear, tired in a way that felt earned, said, "Time doesn't restart when the clocks strike. It restarts when the story finishes. And we haven't finished ours yet." Then static, then silence. Then the station lights flickered. Not failure, not malfunction, change. And I realized I wasn't supposed to archive this message. I was supposed to respond, so here I am. At the edge of memory. At the edge of self. Eloise is sitting beside me now, her hands wrapped around a cracked ceramic cup. No liquid inside, just warmth from her palms. The kind of ritual you hold on to when the world forgets how to offer comfort. She looked at me and said nothing, because she doesn't need to. She already knows I'm ready to speak the thing I've been circling for 17 loops, maybe more. So here it is. I remember Nadia, not just her laugh, not just her theories or the scarf I refused to wash. I remember what she said right before the project failed, right before the climate simulation collapsed and the funding evaporated. She said, "If we don't learn how to hold grief in our hands without dropping it, the world will just keep folding in on itself until nothing hurts anymore, because nothing remains." I remember Raj and the greenhouse that both existed and didn't. I remember the static children who hummed lullabies into time. I remember the signal from Yana and her frozen warning, not gravity, memory. I remember the taste of ash on loop 3, the fracture in my voice on loop 9, the hourglass on my wrist that glowed just long enough to make me believe I still had time. And now I choose to believe this isn't a cycle of punishment. It's a right, a place where the story waits to be told right. Completely once. So I'm not recording this as survival data. This is not a weather log. This is not a distress call. This is a beginning. Broadcast 001. Because now the memory holds. And so do I. If the loop resets, let it carry this. If someone new finds this frequency, let it teach them. And if this is the last version of me that gets to speak, then let it be the one who remembered why we spoke at all, to name the grief, to carry the truth, to finish the sentence. This is Miles Harrington, still broadcasting, still remembering, still rewriting the ending.